Real quick.
Now we can start chapter 14. Again, one of the things, if you did happen to jump back on D2L a moment ago, you would have seen that I gave you a zip file for chapter 14. You've typed some in, you've typed in your code listings, but I gave you access to all of them because there may be something that you want to do at one of these shapes, one of these, graphics, one of these effects, or like we're going to talk about next week, the media, some things I can do. And all of a sudden, hopefully you've seen some stuff that, for example, Chris did in his programs. And, we had a pizza with dripping cheese on it. And you can start to really, really create nice programs, nice things for people. Your neighbor might say, hey, our HOA needs blah, blah, blah. And you said, well, I can write a program to do that. And I'll be like, what? And you're like, yeah. And I'll be like, what? And you can write it. Anyhow, chapter 14 goes a little bit more into some of these effects that we can do on a screen. And, I'm looking at, okay, so we start out in 14.1. 14.1 is like the longest section ever in the world, but it starts talking about the shape class. And before we actually get moving on the shape class, what I'm going to do, I know I have to add an instance, which is what we've been doing, an object, create an object, put that into the container, add that container to the scene. All those things are familiar. But the first thing, again, we want to talk about is the pixels and what the coordinate system looks like. And I will always reference back to, this is like quadrant number 4 in the Cartesian coordinate system, because you have an X value and then we come down Y values, but think of the Y values as the absolute coming down. So this goes over 639 and down 479. We have locations throughout, but it's an X coordinate followed by a Y coordinate. Again, 4th quadrant is the way I think about it. You saw my list a moment ago, but when we start dealing with the shape class, we get into an explanations in this section 14.1, deal with the line, the circle, the rectangle, all of these different shapes and how you can put them on the screen. And okay, there might be times where I need to insert a couple of circles to make things look good. And, it's now tucked in your head. Do you remember all the code? Nope. You're going to have to look it up. You're going to have to hang on to the code listings for chapter 14 in case you want to reference them. But I gave them all to you, so they're now all available. And again, I come over here, what I just mentioned a moment ago, create an instance for all the objects, add them to the container, add the container to the scene. Just some syntax, the first one that was on that list a moment ago was a line. And you start to see a pattern with when you instantiate these objects and how they work with, most of them are asking for a constructor. And for example, to draw a line, I need a starting X and Y value. I need an ending X and Y value. Nice and simple. I didn't have you draw this or type this one in, but, okay, so yeah, a lot of this is looking familiar, and I'm not doing a ton of them this time. This was the one just for a line, and there's my main, that's good. And they go through and add an extra 8 lines of code, but they start drawing lines. The first line has 2 sets of coordinates. Second line, 2 sets of coordinates. Third line, 2 sets of coordinates. And, I draw these lines and come up with something that looks like a nice, simple triangle. Easy peasy. I know, somebody just said lemon squeezy, didn't they? Anybody? Nobody said it? Okay. Taking a look at the triangle, I checked all the numbers and I went, nope, the numbers can't be right. In order for this triangle to actually exist, and dummy me wrote them in pen instead of pencil, but if I'm going over 160 and down 20, that puts me there. If I'm going over 20 and down 220, that's there. So if I'm going over farther, I need to come down to 20 so that this is, yeah, now it's nice and level, right? And the way it's set up, 20 to 160, and if I added another one, so probably should have been something like 300 and 220 for the coordinates of that second triangle. But I did it in pen, so that sort of stinks. Second topic, and I bring this one up, not one that you typed in, but all of a sudden I got this circle, and the reason I brought it, oh boy, circle gives me a lot of different constructors. So this is one of the things you want to tuck away when I'm instantiating these objects. Are there different constructors to look at? I have a default. I have one where I just have the radius. I have include the center, the pixels of where the center location should be. I have something going on here with the word fill, and all of a sudden I glance over and I see the paint class. So these are all in the book, whether you have a physical or an online, or excuse me, a PDF of some sort, but they're all there. Needs to be mentioned that they all exist. And down here in the bottom, there are some set fill. If I create a circle, I can, okay, I have an X value and a Y value for my center. I can set radius. Methods come along with every class, and here's some methods. This goes way back to chapter 5 when we talked about sets and gets and why our accessors and mutators, we want them to be set and get because that's just consistent with what you see in classes. There was one way, draw a nice circle and I make it red. Here's another circle. You have code listing 14.2 now because I gave it to you, and it's a bullseye. It comes up to be a bullseye. Go ahead and load that up. Okay, take a minute, download the code listings for 14, code listings for chapter 14, unzip it, grab them all, grab 14.2. It's a single file. Open it up. And if you run it, do you get the bullseye that looks like this?
Yeah, except this one actually has color.
Well, yeah, the book's black and gray. Do you have black, red, black, red? All four are there?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So I want to go back up to, take a look at your line 44. What does your line 44 say? This is where I wish we were in a classroom because people would just speak freely. They wouldn't be muted all the time.
It's making a pane and then adding the rings to it.
Okay. How many rings are here?
3.
3. So in your output below, did you get 4?
Yes.
How can there be 3 and we only get 4? Everybody understand my question?
It's
In
like,
the code,
Go
in the
ahead.
code listing you gave us, there's 4 rings.
Okay, so this one is a typo. It's missing a ring. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get across. Now, my next question is, does order matter for the rings? I don't know, switch ring 2 and ring 1 real quick and see what happens. Matthew says yes, order does matter. Yeah, because they overlay over top. Ring 1 is my biggest ring, and that would be that black, that whole outer. When I do the next ring, it's going to overlay over top of it. Then I did the black ring and then the smaller ring inside. So one of the things you want to keep in mind is that order matters. Okay, not so bad. You did rectangle. You did, the next one I want to talk about is the rectangle class. You typed in this checkerboard and you made a whole bunch of rectangles. And when you put them in, you know, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rectangles that you created. I don't know if some of you are worried or not, but there are no white rectangles necessary because the default background was white. Okay, good. You know, so I got these, I want to type them in. Oh boy, again, I'm going back to the world of some of you coming out of my 162 know what I'm going to, should know what I'm going to say. If this is what I wanted, before I started anything, I'd be drawing this picture and I'd be going, you know, what's the dimensions of that? What's the dimensions of that? And, you know, so what is this square? What is this square? And that's going to make the program so much easier if I know those values ahead of time. But, you know, we can do a checkerboard. How many squares are there on a checkerboard?
64.
There are 64. And in the world of normalcy, before 5 years ago, it was 64. But now all of a sudden you're going, wait, I can do those size 2 by 2, and all of a sudden I have to count all of those. Then I could do 3 by 3s and count all of those, and it'll be a whole heck of a lot of squares on a checkerboard. But you wouldn't count all of those, would you? No, because you would say if there was 1 square, there's 1. If it was this, you know, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when it was 2, it was 5. And then you would do 3 and you would try to pick up a pattern of the number of squares, wouldn't you? You wouldn't take all 64 on at one time. Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah, because you'd have those of size 1, of size 2, of size 3, of size 4 by 4, 5 by 5s, and so on. But you're a math person and you solve those mathematically. The next thing is an ellipse. It's how a farmer talks, one who doesn't have teeth. Ellipse. Anyhow, moving right along. Drawing the picture first. Drawing the picture first. Okay, all of you all hopefully had trig or you're in trig and you've got a whole lot of ideas of what's going on with trig and an ellipse and how you have those major axis and minor axis and all that conversation, but that's not really needed here. We need to go the center, boom, 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 boom. I have an X radius, left and right. I have a Y radius, north and south, as a lot of people would say. You typed in 14.4. Did you have any questions on 14.4? Again, I didn't want you to type them all in, but yeah, that's kind of neat. I got a couple of circles and ellipse, and you know, it's like an eyeball almost with a sty or something. We need to draw some lines to make eyelashes. That would be cool. The arc. The arc. Sounds like a science fiction movie. I like arcs. Somebody had to come up with a way to create the arc class. I would have rather done one of the other ones, but you know, you start seeing the examples of an arc class, and so if I just look at the examples, would I be able to figure out what I want to do in a constructor and so forth? Here's a starting angle and a length we call an arc length. arc length is from tree. We have a center point. Arc type is round. We have another one down here. We have a center, an X radius and a Y. So there's lots of different things to take a look at with arcs and how we could create them. I go down here to this table. And again, this is just reminding me that there is a class, and we have the Google, so we can always get on and find out tons of information. That, think about computer science 15 years ago, 20 years ago. We didn't have access to all of this stuff. We didn't know what all existed. You couldn't really find it all in a book. But arc, chord, round, open, different things going on. Code listing 14.5. Why don't you load that up? Go grab the code listing. I like it. You have a mathematician comes to you. And of course, you know, there's other software out there to create this quickly, but you could possibly write a program that would help display a pie chart. Kind of a weird shaped pie chart, but nonetheless, it is a pie chart. The polygon class. The polygon class. Yeah, my constructor, yeah, I made a stop sign out of this. My constructor looks like, okay, I keep getting ordered pairs that I would keep drawing. And before you know it, I can come up with something that looks like a stop sign. I could create a diamond if I wanted to, how all of this lays out. The polygon class. And as I said, you typed it in, you filled in your polygon, you got a nice one, and hopefully you made the color of this red so that it looks like a stop sign. Now, as soon as you learn how to do letters, STOP can be put on there after, not before, but after you do your octagon. And you could create a stop sign. Lines. Polyline. Okay. Nothing real exciting there. It's included, but you know, you could be drawing shapes to do. I don't know what you want to. I just noticed it's not closed like the other one. 14.8, the text class. Well, a moment ago I mentioned I want to go and draw my polygon. Why does this look goofy? Draw my polygon, and then all of a sudden I'm going to create something from the text class. Take this text object, call it stop text. I have a starting and an ending. I have a color. I want it to fill in with that color, and I pick a font and a font size. Stop right there.
I'm a little behind the times, but I didn't see pie chart in the code listings you gave us. I was wondering if anyone else didn't have it.
Oh, it wasn't in there.
I didn't have it.
Huh. That would have been code listing 14.5.
Yeah, for some reason it wasn't in there. I don't know.
That's weird. Sorry about that. I'm going to yell at the author. Questions on putting text on. And these are all great, but as you see, these are lots and lots and lots of lines of code. And you watch TV and you hear them say, yeah, I'd have to go through a million lines of code. And, you know, is it realistic? Well, you're working as groups and each doing it, but maybe. I've never seen anything like that. All right, so that was a whole bunch of the graphics that we were talking about. And now we're going to start looking at a couple of effects. What can I do to it? And one is, for those of you that have pre-calc and you got into drawing an ellipse, and then you did the rotation of axes, and you got an ellipse that's you know, you started with this ellipse and it was all nice, but then you said, no, wait a minute, here are my original axes. What if I change it to be these axes, and my ellipse gets rotated onto those axes? And, you know, you start doing, really, we learned about, yeah, so I can rotate an object if I want to. And as you can see, I can create the object box, and then I can rotate it using a method called set rotate. Okay. And 14.9, not one. Oh, I did make you type in 14.9, didn't I? You typed in 14.9 and you got a rotated axis and you got your stop sign twisted. Oh, okay. There might be times I need to twist it. I don't know. I could be twisting the night away. Scaling. Scaling. I take it and I change its size. I want to change its size. And as you can see in this example, you don't have code for it, but hello world, hello world, hello world. I keep setting scale to cut it in a quarter. So it makes it smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Now we could put that on a timer, display hello world, and then, you know, clear it, display it smaller, and display. Yeah, keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Any questions? All right, starting to get into some fun things. Animation. Animation. And what do we have going on with animation? Well, I have a list of them here. And, you know, these are nodes that are going to change over time. And they're going to go from one state to another. The first one is translate transition. This would move from one position on a screen to another, right? It's going to jump around on the screen. I have rotate. We could just spin. You know, I could spin a line. I know there's lots of different things we could do. Scale, that's the idea of making it larger or smaller, sort of like the scale we were talking about a minute ago, but one that's going to be a little more practical. We have this stroke translation. It's the color can change over time. Okay. And we have the fill. We could change the fill of something if we want. We have fade. So again, some of the transition classes are listed here. Wonder how many classes Java has. Got to be an amazing amount. Unbelievable amount. They're all in some kind of hierarchy chart. Okay, so I have lots of them. Again, the process, the node you want to animate, the amount of time the animation will take, the node's starting state, what it's going to be, and its ending state. It's a nice logical progression of what you want to go on. 1410. Go load up 1410 and let's drop that ball. And let's see if JGrasp is going to give me a nice ball drop, or is there something that I may have to do? So I want you to load up that ball drop. Let that drop ball. Do, do, do. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Ball drops works fine for Matthew. That's good. Everybody else have it working? Chris, you're unmuted. Do you have it working? There's a thumbs
Yes.
up from Darren. I wish you people would talk to me. Okay. Can you make the ball drop faster? Well, there's got to be something in there that I would change to make the ball drop faster.
Change the duration.
Okay. What line are you at?
36.
Line 36. Right now, the duration says 1 sec. Ugh, What is 1 sec? Now I need to go up and change 1 sec. Instead of 1,000 up here, 1 sec is 1,000. What if I made it 2,000?
Take longer.
Takes longer to drop. What if I made it 500?
Be shorter.
So it just goes point down. Does it go down and back up or just down?
Just goes down.
Just goes down. Okay. Some of the things to start thinking about. If it drops, is there a way to make it go from left to right? What would I have to change to make it go left to right? It's playtime. I didn't want you to just open it and watch the stupid ball drop. Do you like red or do you like a green ball? How do I make it go left to right? What am I gonna
Change the X value, the start and end X.
Okay, so I got some values down here. My start, 37 and 38, to my end. Start X to end X. You know, I'd have a piece of paper, I'd draw a picture and I'd go like 2100 to 200, 100. 2100, 200 kind of deal to make it go left to right. What you got going on? There's lots of stuff in here. You start playing with it, all of a sudden you're going to start to understand it a lot better. Okay. Rotating class. If I type in, if I go and retrieve 1411, oh boy, all of a sudden I'm seeing quite a few import statements. I have, action event, event handler and action event. What was nice, a couple of you, not many, in your last program had a listener ready. So whenever you made a change to whatever you were doing with your drop downs or the controls that were your list or so forth, that you had a listener ready and it updated the price right away. That was kind of nice because I put something in and said, I don't have that money, I could change it quickly. I like that. This one seems to have an event handler in it. What's going on in all this? Gave you time to load up 1411. 1411, it looks like the ace of diamonds. And what's the ace of diamonds doing? Spins. Yeah, it should be spinning. The ace of diamonds was included with your files. Hopefully that was there. That's kind of a neat effect, I think. A spinning ace of diamonds. Now I'm going to go back and write a program to play cards. Scale. Scale transition class. What do we say scale does? A larger to smaller or smaller to larger? Hello, world. Starts out small and it gets really big. You don't have to open that one up right now. You don't have to open that one up right now. Not right now, but yeah. Fill transition, I mentioned that one. We can change the color over time. Yeah, it is what it is. Here's fade. You know, I can fade an image. Don't know if I want to do that or, but it exists. And this, again, this is just some of the stuff that exists. Some controls that go along with animations. Here's a nice little table. Jump to a certain time, pause, play. I'm not going to go into depth on that, but we can, have our animation ready so that I can say when I want the ball to start, pause, start again, stop, different things when I have an animation that's active. Okay, So here's where we're going to go. I'm going to go back, and I said, we're not going to talk about this, this one, scale transition text, blah, 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 but you're going to modify this. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to draw a yield sign. A what? A yield sign. What's a yield sign look like? Somebody go pull up a yield sign. Share it with your screen. Because I've done a ton of talking. Anybody? Yield? No? Bueller?
You want, wait, you just want us to do a screen share of a yield sign?
Yeah, just share your screen so everybody sees the yield sign.
So everybody sees my yield sign. There you go.
There you go. Okay. The very first one, well, the second one's better because we don't want that blue outline. Looks like a red triangle, then a white triangle on top, and then the letters yield. Oh boy. So this is all red, and then I do a smaller one that's white, and then I add yield on top of that. Okay, thanks, Darren.
My pleasure.
Was it really your pleasure?
Yeah, I loved it. I like the attention.
Here's red, and then again, we're going to put a white on top of that, and then we're going to put red letters on it. That's going to be our yield sign, okay? I want you to create a yield sign, and I want you to use the scale transition where the yield sign is going to be small, and it's going to be like you're driving towards it. Because as you're driving, it's going to get larger and larger and larger and larger until it becomes a nice big yield sign. So for the last half hour, I'm going to put you in groups. We haven't gotten a lot of group work done this semester. Okay, I'm going to put you in small groups, and I want you to do a yield sign so that you're driving, and all of a sudden, it gets closer and closer and closer. When you're done, I'd like you to show me.